In the deep hours before dawn, when the world rests in profound stillness and the stars still hold their vigil above, a single bell begins to ring across the valley. Its voice is gentle, yet persistent, calling through the darkness with a sound that has echoed across these same hills for more than 300 years. This is the bell of St. Benedict's Abbey, and its morning song marks the beginning of another day in a rhythm that has remained unchanged since the monastery was founded in the year of our Lord, 1247. Listen now, as the bell rings out across the sleeping countryside, its tone rich and resonant, carrying across fields where mist gathers in low places, over stone walls built by hands long turned to dust, and through the narrow windows of the monastery itself, where men devoted to prayer and contemplation begin to stir from their brief rest. The bell does not hurry. Each strike is measured, deliberate, a patient invitation rather than a harsh command. It speaks of time that moves differently here, time measured not in minutes or hours, but in prayers and seasons, in the slow turn of liturgical cycles that have governed monastic life since the earliest days of Christendom. In a small cell on the second floor of the monks' dormitory, a young man named Brother Thomas opens his eyes in the darkness. The room around him is simple beyond measure, a narrow bed of wood and rope, a small wooden cross upon the whitewashed wall, a basin for washing, and nothing more. The air is cold, for it is early March, and winter has not yet fully released its grip upon the land. Brother Thomas has been at the Abbey for 2 years now, having arrived as a novice when he was barely 17 summers old. And though the early rising was difficult at first, his body has learned the rhythm of this life, awakening now, almost before the bell has finished its call. He sits up slowly, his breath visible in the darkness, and reaches for the woolen habit folded carefully at the foot of his bed. There is a particular grace in these first movements of the day, a gentleness born of consideration for his brothers sleeping in their own cells along this corridor. The rule of St. Benedict, which governs every aspect of life here, teaches that all should be done with mindfulness, with reverence, with an awareness that every action, no matter how small, is performed in the presence of the divine. Brother Thomas moves quietly through the ritual of dressing, pulling the heavy woolen habit over his linen undershirt, fastening the leather belt at his waist, arranging the scapular that falls before and behind, marking him as a member of this community. In the darkness, his hands know each movement without need of light, and there is something deeply comforting in this familiarity, in the way his fingers find each fold of cloth, each tie and fastening, as though the very garments themselves are a form of prayer. From the other cells along the corridor, he can hear the soft sounds of his brothers, likewise preparing for the day. The quiet rustle of fabric, the soft footfalls on wooden floors, the gentle splash of water as faces are washed in cold basins. No one speaks, for the great silence that descends upon the monastery after Compline, the final prayer of the previous day, will not be lifted until after the morning prayers are complete. This silence is not oppressive, but rather protective, a space held sacred for contemplation, for the turning of the mind and heart toward God before the day's activities begin. Brother Thomas leaves his cell, closing the door with barely a whisper of sound, and joins the quiet procession of monks making their way along the corridor toward the night stairs. These stairs, built into the very structure of the dormitory, lead directly down into the church, allowing the monks to move from sleep to prayer without passing through the outside world, a design both practical and symbolic. The stone steps are worn smooth by centuries of footsteps, curved and hollowed where countless feet have trodden, and Brother Thomas places his hand upon the wall to steady himself in the darkness, feeling the cold stone beneath his palm. Stone cut and placed by monks who lived and died 200 years before he was born. The church below awaits them, vast and dark, and as Brother Thomas descends, he can see the first candles being lit near the altar, small points of warm, golden light that push back against the encompassing darkness. Brother Anselm, who serves as sacristan this month, moves quietly through the church with his taper, touching flame to each candle in its appointed place. First, the candles on the altar itself, then those on the stands flanking the sacred space, then the candles in the choir, where the monks will soon gather to sing the office of matins. As Brother Thomas reaches the base of the night stairs and steps into the church proper, the sacred space opens around him like a cavern carved from prayer itself. The Church of St. Benedict's Abbey was built in the form of a cross, as is traditional, with the long nave extending westward toward the main doors and the shorter transepts reaching north and south. The ceiling rises high above, supported by thick stone pillars that march in solemn rows down either side of the nave. And though it is too dark to see those heights clearly now, Brother Thomas knows every curve and shadow of this place, for he has spent countless hours here in prayer and contemplation. The air smells of stone and incense, of beeswax candles and the particular scent of ancient wood, the choir stalls, the altar screen, the great door to the west. All of it infused with centuries of prayer, as though the very building has absorbed the devotion of generations and now releases it back in subtle waves that wash over all who enter. The monks file in silently, each taking his appointed place in the choir stalls that face each other across the central aisle. These stalls are carved from oak, dark with age, and each seat can be tipped up to reveal a small ledge beneath, a misericord upon which a monk might lean during the long hours of standing prayer. The arrangement is precise and hierarchical, the abbot in his stall at the eastern end, closest to the altar, the prior and sub-prior nearby, then the elder monks, and finally the younger brothers like Thomas, who takes his place and stands quietly, his hands folded within the wide sleeves of his habit. Around him, the community gathers, 23 men in all, ranging in age from Brother Dominic, who is past his 70th year and whose beard is white as winter snow, to Brother Martin, a novice who arrived only 6 months past and whose face still holds the soft uncertainty of youth. Each man is different, yet each wears the same habit, observes the same silence, prepares his heart for the same purpose. Brother Anselm finishes lighting the candles and takes his own place in the choir. For a moment, all is stillness. The candlelight flickers gently, casting soft shadows that sway and dance along the stone walls. And then from his stall, Abbot Paulinus begins to chant, his voice rising into the darkness, strong and clear despite his age. Domini labia me aprias, O Lord, open thou my lips. The response comes immediately, voices joining as one. Et os meum annunciabit laudum tuum, and my mouth shall proclaim thy praise. The words are in Latin, the sacred language of the Church, and they flow with a rhythm polished smooth by repetition, by the countless times these same phrases have been spoken and sung in this place. The office of Matins is the longest of the day's prayer services, containing multiple psalms, readings, and hymns, and it unfolds now with the measured pace of a river moving through ancient channels. The monks' voices rise and fall in the chant, sometimes all together, sometimes divided between the two sides of the choir in antiphon, one side singing a verse and the other responding, back and forth in a gentle rhythm that seems to Brother Thomas like the breathing of some great, peaceful creature. He adds his own voice to the communal sound, feeling how it blends and disappears into the whole, becoming part of something larger than himself. This is one of the gifts of monastic life, the way individual identity softens and merges into community, the way the I becomes we, and the concerns of self gradually diminish in importance. The Psalms appointed for this day are ancient beyond measure, written by King David 1,000 years before the birth of Christ, and yet they speak to every human heart across all the centuries between then and now. They speak of trust in God, of the soul's longing for the divine, of the protection found in faith, of praise and thanksgiving, of sorrow and repentance. As Brother Thomas chants the familiar words, he thinks of all the monks who have stood in this very spot, in this very choir, speaking these very same psalms. He thinks of Brother Anselm, who has been here for 40 years and knows every word by heart, whose voice carries the weight of decades of prayer. He thinks of old Brother Dominic, whose voice wavers now with age, but who still rises faithfully for every office, every call to prayer, despite the pain in his joints and the difficulty of movement. He thinks of Father Prior, whose responsibility it is to maintain discipline and order in the community, and whose devotion to the rule is absolute. He thinks of Brother Clement, who works in the kitchen and whose hands are always red from washing and cooking, yet who sings with surprising sweetness. Each man brings his own struggles, his own history, his own reasons for seeking this life. And yet here, in the darkness, in the candlelight, in the ancient rhythm of prayer, all of that falls away. And they are simply brothers, united in a single purpose. The office continues through its appointed structure. Psalms giving way to readings from Scripture, then to responsories sung in harmony, then to the Te Deum, the great hymn of praise that rises like smoke toward the vaulted ceiling above. Brother Thomas feels the cold of the stone floor through the leather soles of his sandals, feels the chill air on his face, and yet there is a warmth here too. A warmth that has nothing to do with physical heat, but rather with the presence of community, with the shared devotion, with the sense of participating in something that transcends individual existence. Outside the church walls, beyond the narrow windows set high in the stone, the darkness is beginning to soften almost imperceptibly. It is not yet dawn, but the quality of the night has changed, moving from the deep black of true darkness toward the first hint of gray that precedes morning. Inside, the candles continue to burn steadily, their flames unwavering in the still air, and the voices of the monks continue to weave their ancient patterns of sound. When at last the office draws to its conclusion, Abbot Paulinus offers the final blessing, his hands raised in benediction, and the monks bow their heads to receive it. There is a moment of silence, profound and complete, and then they begin to file out of the choir, some returning to the dormitory for a brief period of meditation before the next service, others moving to their appointed tasks for the early morning. Brother Thomas remains for a moment longer, kneeling on the cold stone floor, his hands clasped before him, his eyes closed. He offers his own silent prayer, a prayer of thanksgiving for this life, for this community, for the protection and peace found within these ancient walls. When he rises and turns to leave, he sees old Brother Dominic moving slowly toward the cloister door, and he quickens his pace to offer his arm in support, though no words pass between them. The great silence still holds, but the gesture speaks eloquently enough. Together, they step out into the cloister, where the first birds are beginning to sing their morning songs, and the sky above is slowly turning from black to the deepest, softest blue, and a new day begins again in the endless, peaceful rhythm of monastic life. As the brothers step into the cloister, the morning air greets them with a gentle coolness that speaks of the hours before dawn, when all the world seems held in a kind of sacred suspension. The sky above the open courtyard has indeed begun its slow transformation, that ancient alchemy by which darkness gives way to light, and the stars, which only moments ago seemed eternal in their brilliance, now fade gradually into the deepening blue. The birds have begun their chorus, tentative at first, a single note here and there, and then with growing confidence, as if they too are part of this daily office, this ongoing prayer that never truly ceases. Brother Thomas walks slowly, his feet knowing the smooth stones of the cloister path without need of thought, and he breathes deeply, taking in the scent of dew on ancient stone, the faint perfume of herbs from the garden beyond, the particular smell of morning that is like no other time of day. The community moves together toward the refectory for the morning meal, a simple affair that will break their fast. Bread, perhaps some cheese, watered ale, or herb tea, nothing elaborate, for these are men who have chosen simplicity as their path, who find richness not in abundance, but in the quiet fullness of each moment, each taste, each blessing spoken over humble food. They enter the long hall where rough wooden tables wait in patient rows, where the morning light is just beginning to filter through high windows, casting everything in that soft, uncertain glow that belongs to the threshold between night and day. The meal is taken in silence, or rather in listening, for one brother stands at a lectern and reads aloud from Scripture, his voice measured and calm, filling the space with words that have echoed through this hall for generations. Words that connect this morning to countless other mornings stretching back through the centuries. And when the meal is finished and the simple wooden bowls have been cleared away, the community rises as one. And there is a moment, just a moment, when they stand together in the gentle light, connected by their shared purpose, their shared silence, their shared dedication to a life lived in rhythm with something greater than themselves. Now the community disperses to their assigned labors, for the rule that governs their lives teaches that in work, too, there is prayer, that the careful attention given to any task, no matter how humble, can become an act of devotion, a way of honoring the divine presence that dwells in all things. Brother Thomas makes his way up the worn stone steps that lead to the Scriptorium, that sacred space where the written word is preserved and multiplied, where knowledge passes from age to age in the patient strokes of pen on parchment. The Scriptorium occupies the upper floor of the eastern wing, positioned to catch the morning light, though even now, in these early hours, candles must still be lit to supplement the gentle glow from the windows. He enters quietly, the wooden door creaking softly on its ancient hinges, and the familiar scents embrace him immediately. The sharp, earthy smell of iron gall ink, the particular aroma of parchment, that processed animal skin that has been scraped and stretched and prepared to receive words, and beneath it all, the smell of beeswax from the candles, the faint mustiness of old books, the accumulated fragrance of centuries of scholarship. Other brothers are already at their desks, seated on wooden stools that have been worn smooth by generations of scribes, their backs bent in the particular posture of their craft, their faces illuminated by the warm glow of candle flames that flicker gently in the still air. Brother Thomas moves to his own station, where yesterday's work awaits, a manuscript of the Gospels that he has been copying for many months now, each letter formed with infinite care, each word a meditation, each page a prayer made visible. He arranges his tools with the precise movements of long practice, the quill pens he has cut and prepared himself from goose feathers, each one trimmed to exactly the right angle and sharpness, the small pots of ink, black and red, and occasionally gold for the most sacred words, the pumice stone for smoothing any imperfections in the parchment, the straight edge and the lead point for ruling guidelines so faint they can barely be seen, yet which keep his script marching in perfect lines across the page. He sits and for a moment simply breathes, settling his mind, releasing any thoughts that might disturb the deep concentration his work requires. Then he dips his pen, touches it gently to the edge of the ink pot to remove excess, and places the tip against the parchment and begins. The work of the scribe is slow by its very nature, deliberate, careful, measured in tiny movements of the hand, in the careful formation of each letter, each curve and line and serif. Brother Thomas loses himself in this work, or perhaps finds himself in it, for there is a particular quality to this kind of focused attention that seems to dissolve the boundaries of self, that merges the worker with the work, the scribe with the script, the prayer with the one who prays. The only sounds in the Scriptorium are soft ones, the gentle scratch of pen on parchment, a sound like whispers, like secrets being shared, the occasional creak of a wooden stool as a brother shifts his weight, the rustle of a page being turned in a reference volume, the quiet breath of men engaged in concentration so deep it becomes a form of meditation. Time takes on a different quality here, in this room dedicated to the preservation of timeless words. Minutes stretch and slow, or perhaps they simply become unimportant, measured not by the progression of hours, but by the progression of letters, words, lines, pages. Brother Thomas completes a capital letter, an illuminated I that begins a new chapter, and he pauses to admire the way the gold leaf catches the candlelight, glowing with a warmth that seems almost alive, almost breathing. This is the work that will outlast them all, he knows. These manuscripts, copied and recopied, illuminated and cherished, sent out from the monastery to other libraries, other scriptoria, other seekers of knowledge and beauty. In a world where so much is transient, where seasons turn and empires rise and fall, where even the stones themselves eventually crumble, these words remain, passed from hand to hand, from age to age, a continuity of wisdom and wonder. He dips his pen again and continues, the familiar words flowing through his hand onto the page. In principio erat verbum, in the beginning was the word. How appropriate, he thinks with a small, inward smile, that he should spend his life making words, forming them letter by letter, preserving them for generations yet unborn. Outside the windows, the morning continues its slow brightening, and somewhere below he can hear the faint sounds of other monks going about their labors, footsteps on stone, the distant ring of a hammer from the smithy, the gentle bleat of sheep from the pasture. But here in the Scriptorium, all remains quiet, contemplative, devoted to this most patient of crafts. While some brothers dedicate their morning hours to the work of pen and parchment, others find their prayer in the gardens that spread across the monastery grounds, those carefully tended plots where herbs and vegetables grow in ordered rows, where the work of human hands cooperates with the ancient rhythms of seed and soil, rain and sun, growth and harvest. Brother Martin has been the keeper of the herb garden for more years than most of the younger monks have lived, and his hands, gnarled and stained with earth, know every plant, every herb, every flower that grows in his domain. He moves among the raised beds with a slow, gentle gait, stopping here to pinch back an overgrown stem, there to pull a small weed that has dared to intrude, everywhere bringing the careful attention that transforms simple gardening into an act of stewardship, of sacred care. The herb garden is enclosed by low stone walls, sheltered from harsh winds, positioned to catch the morning sun and hold its warmth well into the evening. Here grow the plants that serve the monastery in so many ways: chamomile and lavender for soothing teas and sleep pillows, sage and thyme and rosemary for the kitchen and for medicine, feverfew for headaches, mint for digestion, St. John's wort for melancholy, yarrow for wounds, and 100 others, each with its purpose, its gift, its particular grace. Brother Martin kneels on the path between beds, his old knees finding their familiar place on the smooth stone, and he begins the work of thinning a row of young basil plants, carefully removing the weaker seedlings to give the stronger ones room to flourish. His movements are unhurried, patient, informed by decades of observation, of learning how plants grow, what they need, when to give more water, and when to withhold it, when to harvest, and when to simply let be. Other brothers work in the vegetable garden beyond, hoeing and weeding, checking the bean plants that climb their wooden stakes, examining the cabbages for pests, drawing water from the well to give the tender lettuce plants relief from the growing heat of the day. There is something deeply peaceful about this work, about the way it connects them to the earth, to the cycles of growth and decay, to the patient unfolding of life that happens when conditions are right, when care is given, when attention is paid. They work mostly in silence, these gardening monks, but occasionally a word is exchanged, a question asked about where something should be planted or whether a particular herb is ready for harvest. And these small communications seem almost musical in the quiet air, brief notes in a long, slow symphony of growing things. The morning continues its gentle progression, and the monastery hums with the quiet industry of men engaged in meaningful work. In the bakehouse, bread dough rises under damp cloths, the yeast working its ancient magic, transforming simple flour and water into something nourishing, sustaining. In the brewery, brothers stir the great vats where ale ferments, that small beer that will provide safe drinking for the community. For in these times, clean water cannot always be trusted, but the brewing process renders it wholesome. In the carpenter's shop, patient hands shape wood for repairs to buildings that have stood for centuries and will, God willing, stand for centuries more. In the infirmary, an elderly monk tends to a brother who has fallen ill, applying poultices made from garden herbs, offering sips of healing tea, sitting quietly beside the bed in that ministry of presence that requires no words. Everywhere, the work unfolds in rhythm, in pattern, in the timeless dance of task and completion, effort and rest, individual labor and communal purpose. Brother Thomas in his Scriptorium continues his careful lettering, now so deep in concentration that he has become almost unaware of his surroundings, his entire world reduced to the tip of his pen, the surface of the parchment, the forming of the next letter, and the next, and the next. Brother Martin in his garden straightens slowly, easing his back, and pauses to simply look at the beds he tends, at the green growing things that flourish under his care, and he offers a wordless prayer of gratitude for the privilege of this work, for the gift of participating in creation's ongoing unfolding. And all through the monastery, in every workshop and garden and hall, there is this sense of rightness, of purpose, of lives lived in accordance with something deeper than individual desire, something that connects these men to each other, to the land they inhabit, to the tradition they serve, and to the divine presence they seek in every moment, every breath, every small act of attention and care. The bells will ring again soon, calling them to the next office of prayer, to terts, the third hour, and they will gather once more in the chapel to lift their voices in psalms and hymns. But for now, in this sweet space between offices, the work continues, peaceful and purposeful, meditative and meaningful, a prayer made manifest in the work of hands, in the tending of earth, in the preservation of words, in all the countless ways that human beings can offer their lives in service to something greater than themselves, and find in that offering not loss but fulfillment, not diminishment but expansion, not burden but the deepest, most abiding peace. And as the morning's labors continue in their gentle rhythms, as hands work soil and ink with equal reverence, the monastery begins to prepare itself once more for prayer. For this is the nature of monastic life, this constant returning, this sacred punctuation of the hours with moments of gathered devotion. The bells will soon ring for terce, the prayer of the third hour, and throughout the monastery, monks begin to complete their immediate tasks, to set down their tools or mark their places in manuscripts, to brush soil from their hands or clean their brushes with careful attention. There is no hurry in these preparations, no sense of interruption, for the prayers are not separate from the work, but woven through it, the pattern that gives shape to the fabric of each day. In the Scriptorium, Brother Thomas carefully blots his last line of text, examining it with quiet satisfaction before covering his inkwell and cleaning his pen with a cloth kept for this purpose. The movements are practiced, meditative, performed the same way countless times before. In the garden, Brother Benedict finishes tying the bean plants to their supports, his fingers gentle with the tender stems, before straightening slowly and turning toward the chapel. The sun has climbed higher now, its light more golden, more full, and it catches the dew that still clings to some of the leaves in shadowed corners, making them sparkle like fragments of crystal. The cloisters begin to fill with quiet figures, monks emerging from various corners of the monastery and moving with that same unhurried grace toward the chapel. Their footsteps create a soft percussion on the ancient stones, a sound so familiar that it might almost be the heartbeat of the monastery itself. Some walk alone, hands folded within their sleeves, faces peaceful and inward turned. Others move in pairs or small groups, maintaining the contemplative silence that characterizes most of their day. The light falls in long rectangles through the arched openings of the cloister walk, creating patterns of brightness and shadow that the monks move through like water flowing around stones in a stream. Above them, the sky is a pure, luminous blue, the kind of blue that seems to exist only in certain moments of perfect clarity, when the air is clean and the light is just so. A few birds wheel overhead, their calls distant and dreamlike, adding to rather than disturbing the profound quiet that settles over everything like a blessing. In the courtyard garden at the center of the cloisters, the fountain continues its eternal murmur, and the herbs release their fragrances into the warming air. Lavender and rosemary, thyme and sage, scents that have perfumed these same stones for hundreds of years, that have been breathed by generations upon generations of monks making this same walk to this same prayer. Brother Michael pauses for a moment at the entrance to the chapel, his hand resting lightly on the worn wooden doorframe. The wood is smooth from centuries of similar touches, burnished by the accumulated contact of countless hands, and there is something deeply comforting in this tangible connection to all who have walked this path before. He can almost feel them, those ancient brothers, their presence not ghostly or unsettling, but companionable, a reminder that he is part of something vast and enduring, a tradition that stretches back through time like a golden thread, connecting past and present and future into one continuous moment of devotion. Inside the chapel, the light has changed since Matins. Where the morning was all shadows and candlelight, mystery and darkness gradually giving way to dawn, now the space is filled with soft, filtered radiance. The stained glass windows glow with color, deep blues and rich reds, emerald greens and golden yellows, and the light they cast paints the stone walls and floors with shifting pools of jeweled beauty. These windows tell stories, ancient tales of saints and miracles, of creation and redemption, but even those who cannot read their symbolic language can feel their meaning in the quality of the light itself, in the way it transforms the ordinary stones into something luminous, something that speaks of transcendence and grace. The monks take their places in the choir stalls, those beautifully carved wooden seats that line both sides of the chapel, each one shaped over centuries to the bodies of those who have occupied it. There is a rightness to settling into these seats, a sense of completion, of being exactly where one is meant to be. The chapel fills with the soft sounds of this settling, the whisper of robes, the creak of ancient wood, the gentle breath of men preparing themselves for prayer. And then, in the moment before the prayer begins, there falls a silence so complete, so profound, that it seems to have texture and weight, seems to be not merely the absence of sound, but a presence in itself, vast and welcoming, and utterly at peace. The prayer of Terce begins with the familiar words, ancient syllables that have been spoken in this place and places like it for more than 1,000 years. The voices of the monks rise together, not in perfect unison, but in a kind of braided harmony, each voice distinct yet part of the whole, like threads woven into cloth. The Latin phrases flow like water, like the fountain in the cloister garden, a continuous stream of devotion that asks for blessing upon the day's work, that consecrates the hours to come, that acknowledges the sacred in the midst of the ordinary. There is something deeply restful about this kind of prayer, this communal chanting that requires nothing of the individual except presence and breath and voice. The mind doesn't need to search for words or construct meaning. It simply rests in the familiar rhythms, allowing the ancient poetry to work its gentle magic. The body sways slightly with the cadence, finding comfort in the posture, in the solidarity of standing together with one's brothers, all facing the same direction, all lifted by the same words toward the same ineffable mystery. Brother Michael feels his shoulders drop, tension he hadn't known he was carrying, releasing with each exhaled phrase. The chapel holds the sound beautifully, its vaulted ceiling designed to amplify and enrich the human voice, to add layers of echo and resonance that make the singing seem to come from everywhere at once, as if the stones themselves were joining in the prayer. This acoustic presence reminds him that the building itself is a kind of prayer, an offering of human craft and devotion given material form, every arch and pillar and carved detail a testament to the same faith that brings them here 3 times each day, 7 times, marking the hours with their voices and their presence. The stained glass continues its slow transformation as the sun moves across the sky. A patch of ruby light that began on the far wall creeps gradually across the floor, its edges soft and blurred, painting everything it touches with warmth. Brother Michael watches it without really watching, his eyes soft-focused, his mind quiet. There is nowhere else he needs to be, nothing else he needs to do. This moment is complete in itself, perfect in its simplicity. The prayer continues, verse and response, the rhythm as natural as breathing, as inevitable as the turning of the seasons. When Terz concludes, the monks file out in the same peaceful silence in which they entered, returning to their various labors with the prayer still echoing in their hearts, still shaping the quality of their attention. The transition is seamless, the work infused with the prayer and the prayer expressed through the work. No separation between sacred and ordinary, between devotion and duty. This is what the monastic life teaches, this integration, this wholeness, this seeing of the divine presence in every moment and every task, however humble. Brother Michael returns to the Scriptorium, to the manuscript that awaits his attention. But before he begins again, he takes a moment to simply stand at his desk, looking out through the narrow window at the view beyond. From here, he can see a portion of the monastery's outer wall, its stones golden in the strengthening sunlight, and beyond it, the rolling fields and distant forest that surround this place of peace. Somewhere out there, the world continues in its tumult and complexity, its joys and sorrows, its endless dramas of ambition and desire. But here, within these walls, time moves differently. Here, the passage of hours is marked not by urgency, but by rhythm, not by acquisition, but by relinquishment, not by the anxious grasping for more, but by the peaceful acceptance of what is. He settles back onto his stool, picks up his pen, examines the nib with careful attention. The morning's work has progressed well. Several pages now bear the fruit of his patient labor, each letter formed with love and precision, each line straight and true. He finds his place in the text, a psalm of praise and thanksgiving, and begins again, his hands steady, his breathing slow and even. The scratch of the pen becomes a kind of music, punctuated by the occasional soft sound of a page turning at another desk, the distant murmur of the fountain, the song of a bird perched somewhere in the eaves. Time passes in this way, measured not by minutes, but by completed lines, by the slow filling of the page with sacred words. The light shifts almost imperceptibly, the quality of it changing from the bright gold of mid-morning toward the fuller, warmer tones of approaching midday. Other monks move through their own tasks with the same attentiveness, in the kitchen, in the garden, in the infirmary where Brother Paul tends to an elderly monk whose joints ache with age, offering gentle massage and herbal compresses, his touch as much prayer as any words could be. The monastery breathes with their collective presence, alive with purposeful quiet, humming with an energy that is all the more powerful for being so contained, so directed toward interior rather than exterior transformation. The bells ring out once more, their voices clear and bright in the midday air, calling the community to sext, the prayer of the 6th hour, the prayer of noon when the sun stands at its highest point and the day pivots from its ascending arc toward the long, slow descent into evening. Once again, the monks set aside their labors. Once again, they move through the cloisters toward the chapel, their movements unhurried, their faces serene. There is a quality to this midday gathering that differs subtly from the earlier prayers, a sense of pause, of standing for a moment at the peak of the day and acknowledging the fullness of the light before beginning the journey back toward darkness. The chapel is warmer now, heated by the sun that streams through the windows with renewed intensity. The colors cast by the stained glass are more vivid, more saturated, painting the interior space with bold strokes of pure hue. A patch of cobalt blue falls across the altar cloth, transforming the simple cream-colored linen into something that seems to glow from within. A shaft of golden light illuminates the carved wooden crucifix that hangs above the altar, making the wood seem alive, almost warm to the eye. Brother Michael takes his place and feels the warmth on his face, on his folded hands, a gentle heat that speaks of the generosity of creation, of the sun that shines on the just and unjust alike, asking nothing, simply giving its light and warmth to all who turn toward it. The prayer of sext is brief, a moment of recollection in the midst of the day, a reminder to maintain awareness, to not lose oneself in the tasks at hand, but to remain always conscious of the deeper purpose that animates all activity. The monks chant the psalms appointed for this hour, their voices perhaps slightly more subdued than in the morning, touched with the gentle fatigue that comes from honest labor, from hours of focused attention. There is something beautiful in this, something human and real. These are not disembodied spirits, but men of flesh and blood, men who grow tired and hungry, whose backs ache and whose eyes strain, who must constantly choose to return their attention to the sacred in the midst of all the demands and distractions of embodied existence. When the prayer concludes, the community moves to the refectory for the midday meal. This is a simple affair, taken in silence, while one of the younger monks reads aloud from a spiritual text, his young voice clear and earnest as he works through the ancient wisdom of the Desert Fathers, those early Christian monastics who fled to the wilderness, seeking God in solitude and simplicity. The food is plain but nourishing: dark bread and cheese, vegetables from the garden, water drawn cold from the monastery's well. The monks eat slowly, attentively, treating the meal itself as a kind of prayer, a grateful reception of the gifts of the earth and the labor that transformed those gifts into sustenance. Brother Michael chews his bread carefully, tasting the grain, the slight tang of the sourdough culture that has been maintained in this kitchen for generations. He thinks about the chain of care that brought this bread to his plate, the farmer who grew the wheat, the miller who ground it, the brother who kneaded the dough and tended the fire, the countless hands and hearts that participated in this simple miracle of daily bread. Nothing is taken for granted here. Everything is received with gratitude, with awareness of the vast web of connection and interdependence that sustains all life. After the meal, there is a brief period of rest. Some of the older monks retire to their cells for a short sleep, bodies requiring this midday respite. Others walk in the gardens, enjoying the warmth of the day while maintaining the contemplative silence. Brother Michael chooses to sit in the cloisters on a stone bench worn smooth by countless bodies over countless years. From here, he can see the garden, can watch the play of light on the leaves, can observe the bees moving from flower to flower in their own tireless labor. A butterfly, brilliant orange with black markings, dances past him on the warm air, its flight seemingly random, yet somehow purposeful, following patterns only it can perceive. He closes his eyes and simply listens. The fountains murmur, the buzz of insects, the rustle of leaves in a slight breeze, the distant sound of a door closing somewhere in the monastery. A cart passing on the road beyond the walls, its wheels creaking, a voice calling out something indistinguishable. All of these sounds weave together into a kind of symphony, the music of the world simply being itself. No performance, no audience, just the pure expression of existence in all its varied forms. This too is prayer. This listening, this openness, this willingness to receive the moment exactly as it is without trying to change it or control it or make it into something other than what it already perfectly is. The sun warm on his face, the stone cool beneath him, his breath moving in and out, a tide that has ebbed and flowed since his first moment of life and will continue until his last. No striving, no achieving, simply being here, present to this moment, this eternal now, in which everything that matters is already complete, already perfect, already blessed beyond measure. The afternoon stretches out like a cat in the sun, unhurried and content, as the monastery settles into the deep quiet of the warmest hours. The bells will not ring again until none, the prayer of the 9th hour, which marks the beginning of the day's slow turning toward evening. Until then, there is only work and silence, contemplation, and the gentle rhythm of ordinary tasks performed with extraordinary attention. Brother Michael returns to the Scriptorium, but his eyes are growing tired from the close work, so Brother Augustine, the master of the Scriptorium, gently directs him to other tasks, organizing the finished pages, preparing fresh batches of ink, cutting new quills from the goose feathers kept in a large basket for this purpose. There is something meditative about these simpler tasks, something that allows the mind to rest while the hands remain busy. Brother Michael takes up a knife and begins to prepare the quills, cutting the nibs with practiced strokes, testing each one against a scrap of parchment to ensure the line it makes is clean and true. The feathers are soft in his hands, lighter than seems possible, marvels of natural engineering that allow birds to conquer the sky. He thinks about this as he works, about the way humans have learned to transform the materials of the world into tools of culture and spirit, feathers becoming instruments of writing, sand and ash becoming glass for windows, stone and timber becoming shelters and sanctuaries. Everything serving something beyond itself, everything participating in the grand work of creation, continuing itself through consciousness and care. Across the room, Brother Thomas has returned to his own manuscript, the hours of work ahead of him stretching out with a quality of timelessness. He is working on an illuminated capital letter, a great ornate B that will begin a new book of the scripture he is copying. The design is intricate, vines and flowers interweaving, tiny birds perched among the foliage, the whole thing to be painted in brilliant blues and scarlets and gold once the drawing is complete. This work requires different attention than the simple copying of text, demands that he consult the pattern books, that he sketch and refine, that he move with deliberate slowness to ensure accuracy. His tongue touches his upper lip in concentration, a gesture he is completely unaware of, his entire being focused on the movement of his pen, on the slow emergence of beauty from blank page through patient application of skill and vision. In the garden, the afternoon heat is beginning to make the air shimmer slightly. Brother Benedict has moved his work to the shade of the orchard, where he is carefully pruning the apple trees, removing dead wood and shaping the living branches to allow light to reach all parts of the tree. His movements are slow and considered. He pauses often to step back and assess the tree from different angles, reading its structure the way Brother Thomas reads the manuscripts, seeing what is needed, what will serve the tree's flourishing. The cut branches lie at his feet in a growing pile, their leaves already beginning to wilt in the heat. Later, they will be collected and added to the compost heap, returning their substance to the earth to nourish future growth. Nothing is wasted here. Everything cycles, everything returns, everything serves. A bee lands on Brother Benedict's hand, its legs heavy with pollen, its wings translucent in the filtered sunlight. He remains perfectly still, not wanting to startle the creature, watching with quiet fascination as it rests for a moment on his sun-browned skin before launching itself back into the air and disappearing among the flowering herbs nearby. He smiles to himself, a small private expression of delight, reminded once again of the scripture that speaks of how God cares for even the smallest sparrow, how not one falls to the ground without the Father's knowledge. And if God cares so tenderly for the birds, for the bees, how much more does he care for his human children, these monks who have given their lives to seeking his presence in prayer and work and silence? The hours pass in this way, marked not by anxiety or impatience, but by steady progress, by the accumulation of small actions into larger purposes. A manuscript advances line by line. A garden grows more ordered and beautiful plant by plant. A soul deepens its capacity for peace and presence moment by moment. This is the real work of the monastery, not the visible products of scriptorium and garden, but the invisible transformation that occurs in human hearts when they are given the space and structure to turn away from distraction and toward depth, from fragmentation toward wholeness, from the superficial toward the sacred. As the sun begins its descent from the zenith, as the light begins to shift from the harsh brightness of midday toward the softer, more golden quality of afternoon, the bells ring once more, calling the community to none, the ninth hour, the prayer that acknowledges the passage of the day's peak and the beginning of the journey toward evening. Once again, the monks set down their tools. Once again, they make their way to the chapel, moving through light that has grown gentler, shadows that have grown longer, a world that seems to be taking a deeper breath, settling into a different quality of being. The chapel for the prayer of none is filled with a light that has mellowed, that has lost the intensity of midday and gained in its place a quality of warmth and richness that makes everything it touches seem precious and beloved. The stained glass windows glow like jewels, but softer now, their colors less about brilliance and more about depth, about the way light can be transformed as it passes through colored glass into something that seems to carry emotion, to speak directly to some wordless place within the human heart. The monks settle into their places with a visible sense of ease, bodies that have worked well, showing the signs of that work, the slight stiffness in joints, the deeper breathing, the gratitude for the chance to sit and be still for these few moments before the afternoon's final hours of labor. The prayer of none is traditionally associated with the hour of Christ's death upon the cross, and so it carries a quality of solemnity, of acknowledgement of suffering and sacrifice, but also of trust, of the great surrender that the Christian tradition sees as the gateway to resurrection and new life. The monks chant the appointed psalms, their voices carrying these themes of lament and trust, of darkness and faith, of the soul that clings to God even, especially in moments of difficulty and doubt. Brother Michael finds his voice joining with the others, feels the words working their way into his heart, not as abstract theology, but as lived experience, the recognition that every day contains its own small deaths, its own moments of letting go, and that these, too, can be prayer if they are offered with conscious intention, with the willingness to surrender what cannot be held into the hands of the one who holds all things. When the prayer ends and the monks file out once more into the lengthening afternoon, there is a palpable sense of the day beginning to gather itself toward completion. The light is changing faster now, perceptibly shifting from moment to moment as the sun continues its arc across the sky. The shadows in the cloisters have grown long and soft, creating pools of deep shade between the columns, and the monks walking there seem to move through alternating bands of light and shadow like figures in a dream, a appearing and disappearing, their forms outlined in gold where the sun catches the edges of their robes. Brother Michael does not return to the Scriptorium, but instead takes up his place in the chapel for a period of private prayer. This is his custom in the late afternoon, this time of simply sitting before the altar, hands folded loosely in his lap, eyes soft-focused on the crucifix or the flickering candles, or nothing in particular. It is not a time for words or thoughts, but for a deeper kind of attention, a resting in the presence that fills this space, that fills all spaces for those who learn to perceive it. His breathing slows, his heart rate settles into its deepest, calmest rhythm. The constant stream of mental commentary that usually fills his awareness begins to quiet, and in the spaces between thoughts, he touches something vast and peaceful, something that has no name and needs none, something that is simply the ground of all being, the source from which everything arises and to which everything returns. Time loses its usual meaning in these moments. He might sit for minutes or for an hour. It makes no difference. There is no schedule to keep during this part of the afternoon, no task demanding his attention. There is only this, the stillness, the silence, the sense of being held by something infinitely larger than himself, yet completely intimate, closer than his own breath, more present than his own heartbeat. Other monks come and go, some staying to pray, others pausing only briefly before moving on to other tasks. The light continues to change, the colors cast by the windows growing richer, deeper, beginning to take on the amber tones that herald the approach of evening. A sense of profound gratitude wells up in Brother Michael's chest, not directed toward anything in particular, not because of any specific blessing or benefit, but simply as response to being alive, to being conscious, to being part of this ancient tradition of seeking the sacred in the midst of the ordinary, of offering one's life not for gain or glory but for love, for the pure joy of participating in something beautiful and true. His eyes grow warm with tears that don't fall, his throat tight with an emotion that has no need of expression because it is complete in itself, perfect in the feeling of it, requiring nothing more than to be fully experienced in this moment of sitting in this chapel, in this monastery, on this particular afternoon, in a life that is utterly unique and utterly ordinary, utterly his own and utterly given away. The chapel grows quieter as fewer monks pass through. The afternoon is drawing toward its close, the work of the day approaching completion, the community beginning that subtle shift in energy that comes as one prepares to set down the labors of productivity and move toward the different quality of the evening hours. But for now, for this last stretch of afternoon, there is still this, the light through the windows growing ever more beautiful as it grows more slanted, the silence deepening like water, the ancient stones holding their peace, these walls that have witnessed so many prayers, so many seekers, so many souls finding their way home to the place they never left. The presence that was always already there, waiting with infinite patience to be noticed, to be acknowledged, to be welcomed with the simple words spoken silently in the heart. Here I am. Here. I am. Here. Here. And the afternoon light has been moving, slowly, imperceptibly, across the stone walls of the monastery. And now it begins to gather itself into that particular quality of illumination that speaks of ending, of completion, of the gentle closing of the day's bright chapter. The sun, hanging lower now in the western sky, sends its rays through the high windows at a different angle, painting the corridors with amber and gold, with the warm hues of honey and old parchment. And the monks feel this change in their bodies, in the quality of silence that surrounds them, for they have lived by these rhythms so long that they need no clock to tell them when the hour of Vespers approaches. Those who have been working in the gardens begin to gather their tools, brushing soil from their hands, feeling the coolness of evening beginning to settle into the earth. Those who have been copying manuscripts in the Scriptorium set down their quills with care, blotting the last words, allowing the ink to dry before closing the great books. And those who have been in prayer, or contemplation, or simply sitting in the silence of the cloisters rise slowly from their places, their joints stiff perhaps from stillness, their hearts quiet from the day's devotions. There is no rush, no hurry in these movements. Everything unfolds at the pace of breath, of heartbeat, of centuries. The bell will ring soon, calling them to evening prayer, but already they are moving toward that gathering, drawn by habit and love, by vow and choice, toward the chapel, where the candles are even now being lit by the brother whose duty it is to prepare the sacred space for Vespers. He moves from taper to taper, touching flame to wick, watching each small light spring into being, a constellation of earthly stars to mirror the ones that will soon emerge in the darkening sky above the monastery walls. And as he lights each candle, he whispers a prayer, too soft to hear, a blessing or a petition, an offering of gratitude for another day completed, another cycle of prayer fulfilled, another turning of the great wheel of sacred time that has turned here for so many years, for so many generations of monks who have walked these same stones, lit these same candles, gathered for these same prayers at the same hours, day after day, year after year, century flowing into century, like water, like breath, like the eternal now that holds all time within itself. The bell rings, its voice deep and resonant, rolling out across the monastery grounds, across the gardens and the walls, out into the countryside, beyond where farmers pause in their evening tasks and cross themselves, knowing that the monks are gathering for prayer, keeping the sacred hours as they always have, as they always will. Inside the chapel, the brothers enter in silence, their sandaled feet whispering against the worn stone floor, each taking his accustomed place in the choir stalls, those beautiful carved wooden seats that have held generations of praying bodies, their wood smooth and dark from centuries of use, polished by countless robes, warmed by countless hours of vigil. The chapel is filling with that particular quality of light that belongs only to this hour, when day has not yet surrendered to night, but darkness is gathering in the corners, pooling beneath the pews, rising slowly like water. The candles on the altar burn steadily, their flames straight and golden, and their light catches the silver of the chalice, the embroidered threads in the altar cloth, the faces of the monks as they settle into stillness, into silence, waiting for the abbot to begin the evening office. Outside, swallows are swooping through the air, catching the last insects of the day, their cries sharp and free. But inside the chapel, all is quiet, hushed, reverent. The monks stand, and then as one voice, they begin to chant the opening words of Vespers, Deus, in adiutorium meum intende. O God, come to my assistance. Domine, ad adiuvandum me festina. O Lord, make haste to help me. The words are ancient, worn smooth by countless repetitions, yet they remain fresh, immediate, alive with longing and trust. The voices rise and fall in the plainsong melody, weaving together in a tapestry of sound that seems to come not from individual throats, but from the stones themselves, from the very air, from the accumulated prayer of centuries. Each monk knows his part, knows when to breathe, when to pause, when to let his voice blend with his brothers' voices in those strange, haunting harmonies that seem to belong to another world, or perhaps to reveal the sacred dimension that exists within this world. Hidden beneath the surface of ordinary things, waiting to be uncovered by attention, by devotion, by the patient repetition of these ancient words and melodies. The Psalms of Vespers flow like water, like time itself, each verse a step deeper into evening, into rest, into the trust that allows a community to release the day and enter the shelter of night. The monks chant of God's faithfulness, of divine protection, of the gathering of souls under the shadow of mighty wings, and as they chant these words, they feel them settling into their bodies, into their hearts, becoming not just words, but truth, not just poetry, but lived reality. Lauda anima mea Dominum, praise the Lord, O my soul. And they do praise in these ancient melodies, in this gathering darkness, in this companionship of souls devoted to prayer. Between the psalms come moments of silence, profound and deep, when the last note fades and the chapel holds its breath. And in those silences you can hear small sounds, the settling of a robe, the creak of wood, the soft breathing of the community, the distant wind moving through the monastery gardens. And then another psalm begins, and the voices rise again, and the light continues its slow fade, and the candles burn steadily on, faithful in their small task of pushing back the darkness, of creating an island of light in the gathering night. The hymn of Vespers is particularly beautiful this evening, a melody that climbs and falls with the natural rhythm of breath, of waves, of all things that rise and return, and the words speak of the day's completion, of work offered and received, of gratitude for all that has been given, for life and breath and the grace to pray, for this community in this place, for the tradition that holds them and the silence that surrounds them. As the hymn ends, the abbot intones the Magnificat, Mary's song of praise, and the monks respond in alternating verses, their voices carrying the ancient words, "My soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God my Savior." The canticle flows through the chapel like a river of light, and when it concludes, the final prayers are offered, brief and simple, for the church, for the world, for travelers and for those who sleep in peace, for the living and the dead, for all souls who have ever sought shelter in prayer, in silence, in the gathered warmth of communities like this one, scattered across the world and across time, keeping vigil, keeping faith, keeping the sacred hours. The final blessing is given, the dismissal spoken softly in the gathering dark, Benedicamus Domino, let us bless the Lord, Deo gratias, thanks be to God. And then the monks process out of the chapel in the same silence with which they entered, moving through the cloisters toward the refectory where their evening meal awaits. The sky above the open courtyard is deepening now into shades of indigo and violet, and the first stars are appearing, faint and far, eternal witnesses to these earthly rhythms. The refectory is a long, simple room with high windows and long wooden tables, and at each place a wooden bowl, a wooden cup, a simple spoon, and a piece of bread. The meal tonight is what it often is, a thick vegetable soup made from the monastery garden, flavored with herbs and a little salt, dark bread baked this morning and still faintly warm, cheese made by the brothers who tend the dairy, and water to drink, cool and clean from the monastery well. It is not a feast, but it is enough, more than enough, sustaining and nourishing, received with gratitude. The monks take their places at table, standing until the abbot has given the blessing, a simple prayer of thanks for food and for those who prepared it, for the earth that yielded it, and the sun and rain that brought it forth. And then they sit, and they begin to eat, and the only sounds are the sounds of a meal taken in silence. The gentle clink of spoon against bowl, the tearing of bread, the swallow of water, the soft shuffle of feet on stone, the turn of a page. For one of the brothers sits at a raised lectern and reads aloud from Scripture or from the lives of saints, his voice calm and measured, another kind of nourishment, food for the soul to accompany food for the body. The words wash over the community like a blessing, like a lullaby, and the monks listen as they eat, slowly, mindfully, tasting the simple goodness of bread and soup, feeling the quiet satisfaction of hunger met, of thirst quenched, of a day's work completed and offered. The warmth of the meal spreads through their bodies, and the warmth of the hearth fire at the end of the hall radiates gently through the room. And there is such peace in this moment, such profound, ordinary peace, that it seems almost a gift too great to comprehend. The reading continues, the voice of the brother rising and falling in the quiet hall, telling of ancient saints who lived in deserts and forests, who sought God in solitude and silence, who found treasure in poverty and freedom in obedience, who discovered that the path to peace runs through surrender, through the letting go of all the small false selves we construct and defend, through the opening of hands and heart to receive what is already given, what has always been given since before time began. And the monks listen, and they eat, and they feel the day settling into their bones like sediment, like peace, like the gradual accumulation of small moments of grace that builds over time into something that looks like holiness, but feels simply like home. When the meal is finished, they stand once more for a final prayer of thanks, and then they begin to clear the tables, washing the simple dishes in wooden tubs of water, stacking the bowls and cups with care, sweeping the floor clean of crumbs, preparing the refectory for morning. These tasks are done in silence, in the companionable quiet of men who know each other so well that words are unnecessary, whose lives are so intertwined that they move together like one body, each performing his task without need of direction or praise. And when the work is done, they file out into the cloisters once more, into the deepening night, and some pause to look up at the stars, now brilliant in the dark sky, and some walk slowly around the courtyard one more time, breathing the cool night air, and some go directly to the chapel for a few more minutes of private prayer before the final office of the day. The monastery is settling into its night rhythm now, into the deep quiet that will soon be formalized in the great silence, but which is already gathering, already present, in the quality of darkness, in the stillness of stone, in the gentle extinguishing of lamps and the soft closing of doors, in the footsteps that grow slower and quieter, in the hearts that turn inward and downward into rest, into trust, into the ancient darkness that is not the absence of light, but the womb of light, the rich soil from which all light is born, the holy darkness that holds all things in being, that sustains every breath, every heartbeat, every prayer whispered into the night, by every soul who has ever sought, who has ever longed, who has ever known that there is more, always more, and that the more is found, not by grasping but by releasing, not by striving but by resting, not by speaking but by falling silent, by listening, by waiting in the dark with open hands and open heart, ready to receive. And so the hour of Compline arrives, the final prayer of the day. The last gathering before the great silence descends upon the monastery like a gentle benediction. The bell rings softly, its tone different from the daytime calls, quieter somehow, more intimate, a whisper rather than a summons. One by one, the monks emerge from their cells and workrooms, moving through the darkened corridors with practiced steps, needing no light to find their way to the chapel. They have walked these paths 1,000 times, 10,000 times, their feet knowing every worn stone, every slight incline, every place where the floor dips slightly from centuries of such footsteps. The chapel glows with just a handful of candles now, far fewer than at any other service, and the golden light seems to float in the darkness like small islands of warmth. The monks take their places in the choir stalls, settling into the ancient wood that has held generations of their brothers, and for a long moment there is only silence, only the sound of breath, only the stillness that comes before prayer. Then, softly, they begin to chant the opening psalm, their voices low and unhurried, the Latin words flowing like water over smooth stones, each syllable placed with care, with attention, with love. In te Domine speravi, they sing. In you, Lord, I have hoped. And the words rise gently toward the vaulted ceiling, filling the space with a peace that seems to come from beyond time itself. This is the hour of release, the hour of letting go, when all the concerns and labors of the day are placed into hands far larger than our own. The candlelight flickers across the faces of the monks, illuminating calm expressions, eyes half closed in meditation, lips moving in silent accompaniment to the shared chant. There is no urgency here, no rush to finish and move on to the next thing. Each word of each prayer is given its full weight, its complete presence, allowed to exist fully before the next word comes. The rhythm is hypnotic, peaceful, like waves lapping gently against a shore, like breath moving in and out, like the beating of a heart at rest. Between the sung prayers come readings, the voice of the reader barely above a whisper, speaking of trust and rest, of protection through the night, of the watchfulness of the divine that never sleeps, so that we might sleep in peace. And listening to these ancient words, spoken in this ancient place, at this ancient hour, you can feel something in your own chest beginning to soften, to release, to let go of whatever small tensions or thoughts you've been carrying. The monks know this feeling, have known it every night of their lives here, this gentle dissolution of the day's concerns, this gradual opening into rest. The service of Compline is brief, briefer than any other prayer of the day, for it is not a time for elaborate ritual, but for simple trust, simple surrender. The monks chant the Nunc Dimittis, the Song of Simeon. Now you dismiss your servant, Lord, according to your word in peace. And there is something profoundly settling in these words, this ancient prayer of one who has seen enough, who is ready to rest, who releases the day gladly and without regret. After the final blessing, the abbot sprinkles holy water, each small drop catching the candlelight for just a moment before disappearing into darkness, a reminder that we are blessed, that we are held, that we may now let go. Then begins the great silence. It is not announced with words are now over, but rather with a quality of attention that shifts, deepens, becomes even more interior. The monks rise from their places and move toward the abbot to receive a personal blessing, each one bowing slightly, receiving a gesture of benediction, a hand briefly on the shoulder, a moment of connection that requires no speech. And then, slowly, quietly, they begin to disperse, each monk heading toward his cell, and the silence that fills the chapel and corridors now is different from the working silence of the day. This is the great silence, the silence that will last until dawn, the silence that is not merely the absence of speech, but a presence in itself, a fullness rather than an emptiness. As you follow one monk through the darkened corridor, you notice how even his footsteps seem softer now, more careful, as though even the sound of feet on stone might disturb something sacred. He carries a small candle, its flame guttering slightly with his movement, casting shadows that dance along the walls. Other monks pass in the darkness, and they acknowledge each other only with the slightest inclination of the head, a gentle recognition that says everything without saying anything at all. The monk reaches his cell, a small, simple room with a narrow bed, a wooden cross on the wall, a small window that looks out onto the night. He places his candle on a simple shelf and kneels for a moment in private prayer, his lips moving silently, his hands folded, his head bowed. The candlelight illuminates only a small circle of the cell, leaving the corners in darkness, creating an intimacy, a sense of shelter and safety. When he rises, he removes his outer robe and folds it carefully, his movements unhurried, attentive, mindful even in these small acts. He sits for a moment on the edge of his bed, feeling the rough wool of the blanket, the solid wood of the frame, and he looks toward the window, where stars are visible, small points of light in the vast darkness. For a few moments, he simply sits, breathing, being, allowing the day to fully complete itself. Then he leans forward and gently extinguishes the candle, pinching the wick with moistened fingers, and the small thread of smoke rises in the darkness, carrying with it the last light of the day. And now, all through the monastery, in cell after cell, candles are being extinguished, little lights winking out one by one, and with each extinguished flame, the darkness deepens, the silence deepens, the peace deepens. The monastery settles into night like a great ship coming to rest in a calm harbor. All the motion of the day gradually stilling, all the activity gradually ceasing, until there is only this: stone and darkness and silence and the slow breathing of sleeping monks. If you were to walk through the corridors now, though of course you would not, for this is the time of the great silence, you would hear almost nothing. Perhaps the distant hoot of an owl in the woods beyond the walls. Perhaps the whisper of wind moving through the cloister garden. Perhaps the faint creak of ancient timbers settling as the temperature drops. But mainly, you would hear silence, a silence so complete it almost has texture, almost has weight, a silence you could wrap around yourself like a blanket. In the chapel, a single lamp burns before the altar, the eternal flame that never goes out, and its light is barely enough to illuminate the space immediately around it, leaving the rest of the chapel in darkness. The choir stalls are empty now, the prayer books closed, the music finished, but the chapel still holds something of the prayers that were sung here, still vibrates with the echoes of centuries of devotion. And if you sat here in the darkness, you might feel that you were not alone, that you were accompanied by all those who have prayed here before, a great invisible communion of seeking souls. In the Scriptorium, the manuscripts lie covered on their desks, the ink pots sealed, the quills laid aside. The work will resume tomorrow, and the day after that, the patient copying continuing as it has continued for centuries, preserving words and wisdom and beauty for generations yet unborn. But for now, the work rests, and the room is still, and the darkness is complete. In the kitchen, the fire has been banked for the night, covered with ash so that a few coals will survive until morning, and the faint warmth that remains is like a heartbeat, a small, persistent life at the center of the sleeping monastery. In the herb garden, plants breathe out their fragrance into the night air, releasing scents that no one is awake to smell: lavender and rosemary and thyme. A private prayer of growing things, an offering made to darkness and stars. The fountain in the cloister continues its gentle music, water falling into water, a sound that has continued day and night for longer than anyone remembers, a sound that monks fall asleep to and wake to, as constant as breath, as reliable as the return of dawn. In his cell, the young monk we first met at dawn lies on his narrow bed, a simple blanket pulled up to his shoulders, and he gazes toward the window where stars shine with a clarity you only find far from cities, far from the noise and light of the wider world. He has lived through a complete day in the rhythm that has sustained this community for centuries, waking in darkness, praying, working, praying again, eating simply, praying once more, and now returning to darkness and to sleep. And tomorrow will be the same, and the day after, and the day after that, each day different in its details, but identical in its structure, its rhythm, its purpose. Some might find this repetition tedious, but the young monk has discovered what his brothers discovered before him, that in repetition there is peace, that in routine there is freedom, that when the outer life is simple and predictable, the inner life can deepen and expand in ways that would be impossible amid constant change and stimulation. He thinks of the words from Compline, the prayer of trust, the prayer of release, and he feels his body sinking more heavily into the bed, his breath slowing, his thoughts beginning to drift and dissolve. The day is complete. He has done what he was meant to do. He has prayed and worked and served, and now he is held in a silence that asks nothing of him but rest. In the cells on either side of him, his brothers are also settling into sleep, and though he cannot see them or hear them, he feels their presence, the comfort of shared purpose, shared rhythm, shared faith. They are alone together, each in his own small space, each in his own inner landscape, yet bound by invisible threads of commitment and care. The monastery breathes around them, the old stones holding centuries of such nights, centuries of monks sleeping and waking, generations upon generations, finding the same peace in the same prayers, the same work, the same blessed routine. And knowing this, feeling himself part of this great continuity, the young monk's eyes begin to close. His hand, which had been resting on the blanket, relaxes completely. His jaw softens, his brow smooths. The last fragments of thought float away like leaves on a stream, and he drifts across the border between waking and sleeping so gently that there is no moment when you could say that the crossing happened. He is simply there, in sleep, in rest, in the deep peace that the monastery was built to provide and protect. And all through the building, other monks are making the same gentle crossing, releasing their hold on the day, on consciousness, on everything but the trust that has brought them here and keeps them here. The trust that now carries them into dreams. And now the monastery rests, fully and completely, held in the great silence that is not an emptiness but a fullness, not an absence but a presence. The presence of peace that passes understanding, the peace that has been cultivated here through centuries of patient prayer and faithful living. The stars wheel slowly overhead, marking the passage of hours that the sleeping monks do not count, do not track, do not worry over. Time moves differently here, more slowly. Or perhaps it is not that time moves differently, but that these monks have learned to move with time rather than against it, to flow with its rhythms rather than fight them, to trust its unfolding rather than trying to control it. The moon rises, casting silver light across the rooftops and walls, illuminating the cross that stands at the highest point of the chapel, a sign and symbol visible for miles around, announcing even in darkness that here is a place of prayer, a place of peace, a place where the ancient rhythms continue unchanged and unchanging. And this permanence, this reliability, this steadfast commitment to the same prayers at the same hours, the same work done with the same care, the same silence kept with the same reverence. This is a gift to the world beyond the walls, a reminder that some things do not change, that some truths remain, that some peace is still available to those who seek it. Inside the monastery, all is still. The breathing of sleeping monks, slow and steady, the faint whisper of wind, the gentle splash of the fountain, the creak of old wood and stone. And beneath these small sounds, a deeper silence, a silence that is the ground of all being, the silence from which all words come and to which all words return, the silence that was before the beginning and will be after the end, the silence that is home. And perhaps you, listening to this story, have felt yourself drifting alongside these monks, your own breath slowing to match theirs, your own thoughts quieting, your own body relaxing more deeply into rest. Perhaps you have found yourself in your own cell, in your own sacred space, held in your own version of the great silence? And if so, then stay there. Rest there. Let the day be complete. Let your thoughts dissolve. Let yourself be held by darkness and silence and peace. The monastery will be here tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. The bells will ring, the prayers will be sung, the work will continue, the rhythm will hold. But for now, there is only this: stillness, silence, peace, and the gentle invitation to release, to let go, to sleep, to rest in the great silence that holds us all, now and always, through all the nights and all the days, through all the centuries, unchanging and eternal, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you for listening tonight. If this story helped you drift off, consider leaving a like and subscribing for more calming stories. Sweet dreams, and I'll see you next time.